Here we go. This is the Talkin Buds Football Show. Back in the saddle. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rob. He's Brian. I don't think there's anywhere else we can start than with the news of the day, which is Josh McDaniels getting shown the door by the Las Vegas Raiders at 9 weeks into the season. They now have two very expensive coaches on their payroll that aren't coaching for them.
Yeah, Gruden, he's still getting paid.
Gruden's still getting paid, and now McDaniels is still getting paid. I watched the Raiders play the Lions this past week on Monday Night Football, and yeah, they're just like, they're such a weird team because they have a lot of good pieces. Like they should be, they're in a tough division, obviously. They're in a division with the Chiefs and the Chargers, but and the Broncos, but they should be better than they are. But you watch them and it's like they're having a really hard time putting it all together. Jimmy Garoppolo is terrible. Terrible.
And he's being benched now too. They're not even going to play for the rest of the season, they're saying.
Well, maybe he's not healthy. I mean, that's also a thing with Jimmy is the guy's made of glass.
He also can't hit receivers to save his life. So I understand why they're doing this. Devontae looked so pissed after that game too.
And he's rumored to have wanted out. There was a story that came out a couple days ago that apparently like weeks ago he said, "Get me out of here." And they said no, basically.
I mean, I don't feel bad for him. He chose to go there to play with Derek Carr of all people. And then you get Jimmy G, which is kind of the same thing, except for with the arm strength. But Devontae did this to himself, and I don't feel bad for him.
It was a peculiar choice because he left the Packers at a time when they were going to NFC Championship games, and he was Rodgers' favorite number one target. And I know he said that he didn't like the uncertainty of how much longer Rodgers was going to like. Rodgers was non-committal on whether he was going to retire or not. But it's like you're Devontae Adams. You're at that time considered the best wide receiver in football. And even now, I would say he's a top 3, top 5. Why did you pick the Las Vegas Raiders?
Exactly. Like he could have been smart. Like Tyreek Hill was smart with his trades. Like he went from the Chiefs to the Dolphins. He's still producing big numbers, being on a big team. Devontae chose the worst team with the worst coaching, which we'll get to McDaniels, but the worst coaching, terrible quarterbacking. That's one of the stupidest moves I've ever seen.
I saw Colin Cowherd made this point on his pod today. I just saw it when I was scrolling through Twitter, and Cowherd's pretty hit and miss, but he basically was dispelling the Patriot way. He was like, it was the Tom Brady way.
For sure.
And all of these guys like who have left the Patriot culture and the Patriot way. It's like the Patriot way wasn't a thing. It didn't exist. The Tom Brady way was what existed. And Josh McDaniel, this is Josh McDaniel's second stint as a head coach in the National Football League. Both times has been a disaster.
I mean, he did start 6-1 with the Broncos, but then they were caught for cheating the whole time, videotaping practice, just like he learned from Belichick.
Yes. Yes.
So that's his only winning start, and he's been an under 500 coach his entire career.
Do you think he'll get another job as a coordinator? I do.
I think so, as a coordinator for sure, not as a head coach.
Yeah, maybe he's just one of those guys that like he just when it comes time to sort of run the entire operation, some guys are just meant to be coordinators. I'm looking at a guy like Matt LaFleur right now, which we'll talk about later, and I'm kind of saying, now that you've lost all your superstars and you need to be a leader here and lead this organization, you're kind of failing. So
I agree. Some people should stay as coordinators. Or even Brian Daboll's kind of look like he should be a coordinator again, but
I saw someone joke today that the Steelers should fire Matt Canada and bring in Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator immediately, which
I think that'd be a smart move.
Yeah, same. I'm kind of like, you know what? That's not a crazy thing to say.
No, I'm surprised Matt Canada is even still coaching at this point, but that would actually be a smart move for them.
That's the Steelers thing, man. Like they just it's just like, no, the proof is in the pudding that it's not working, but we're not going to make a coaching change.
I mean, if they want to stick at just above 500, squeezing into the playoffs and losing first round every year, then I guess you could keep doing that. But Mike Tomlin he's overstayed his welcome there too, in my opinion, but they'll never fire him.
Yes, before we move on and start previewing week 9, I just want to touch on a couple trade deadline moves. Like, we had Kirk Cousins go down with an Achilles, another Achilles.
I know this is the year of the Achilles. What is it? Wait, 7 now?
Yeah, and you had him go down with another Achilles injury, and so the Vikings go out and get Joshua Dobbs. And on the one hand, I'm kind of like, well, why not just punt the season and sort of like start planning for next year and get a higher draft pick? But then you look at the standings. The Vikings are 4-4. They're right there. If the playoffs started tomorrow, they're in.
And I'm not a huge Kirk Cousin guy. Like, I've never liked him. He was playing really well before this injury. He was kind
Yeah.
of even without Jefferson, like he was playing really well with the weapons he had. So I am kind of disappointed that he's injured, especially with Achilles. But Dobbs, we've seen what Dobbs can do, and I like it's not going to be an improvement.
No, but he's a guy who at least has NFL experience, and I think the Vikings are looking at it going, the NFC is wide open. We're right in this. They're a team that clearly wants to make the playoffs, and so they're just like, let's go get a guy who can hopefully hold down the fort. Maybe we can squeak in and get a playoff game out of it. That's clearly what they're prioritizing, and more often than not, that's something that I would probably go, why are you doing that? But like I said, the NFC is just so wide open.
I know, and especially once they get Jefferson back, like the team could get hot.
Yes, 100%. So that was a huge trade deadline acquisition. The other one was Chase Claypool going to the or Chase Young, excuse me. Chase Claypool. Chase Young going to the 49ers. The 49ers are just like they're something, man. Like, they've lost 3 in a row. Everybody's starting to question Brock Purdy, but they're just like, we're getting another we God damn it, we are going to the Super Bowl, whether you like it or not.
And their defense has looked pretty bad in those 3 losses, so I kind of understand this move, but the Commanders part of this is very confusing for a 2024 third round pick. That's a robbery.
Yeah, and the Commanders are sort of waving the white flag on the season. But yeah, I agree. It's like, if you're trying to go in that direction to rebuild your franchise, wouldn't you get more than that for someone who was like one of your franchise pieces?
Second overall pick too in that draft. Like
Yes.
I know he's kind of regressed since his first season, but he's still Chase Young. I almost said Chase Claypool as well,
See, see, we're
but he's still Chase Young, and like we've seen what he can do when he's healthy.
Mhm. The other one that I wanted to flag just quickly is the Lions picking up Donovan Peoples-Jones, only because it's just the Lions saying, we're just getting another piece on offense. We're just
And
gonna get another guy for Jared Goff to throw the ball to.
that's what I like. Like the Lions, I don't mind that trade. I think that's pretty smart by them. The one that I find confusing though is the Bears getting Montez Sweat.
I don't get
What
what I don't know.
what the hell is that? Like, why
I
are they
guess you could
buying?
I guess you could look at it and say he's a good player that they want to keep in their franchise, and you could always use
But
a good
he's a free
defensive piece
agent.
like that. Maybe they think they can re-sign him. Like,
I,
or yeah.
I think they talked to his agent prior to this, and they got a deal set up for they will sign him for at least
Yes.
another couple years, or even
Yes.
franchise tag him. But that one really shocked me.
That shocked a lot of people. I saw a lot of people yesterday going, "What the hell is going on?" All right, as we turn our attention to week 9, every week I sort of lament that we're so far into the NFL season. Here we are heading into week 9. There's a lot of teams on buys this week. You mentioned that off air when we were talking off air before we jumped on. There's a lot of teams on buys this week.
Yeah, we got San Francisco on by, Jacksonville on by, Detroit on by, and Denver. But the first 3 that I mentioned, I'm kind of upset they're on buys. I love watching those teams play. Denver
Mm,
don't really care, but
mhm. Yeah. They took care of us though, because there are some pretty good. If you were going to settle in for just an entire day of football, like, obviously I'm a red zoner, you're a red zoner. But if you were someone who're like, I just want to watch complete games, the NFL's got you hooked up from 9:30 in the morning till the end of Sunday Night Football. And it kicks off with the Miami Dolphins and Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. This game is Really interesting because it's 2 6-2 teams, and you've got the Chiefs coming off just an anemic performance against the Denver Broncos. And then I also heard today, I was reading today, that the Dolphins are in Germany and have been in Germany for a few days. The Chiefs were late going out there because they wanted to stay back for their team Halloween party.
Okay, I didn't know that part of it. I heard the travel schedule and was wondering why they didn't go out there. Mike McDaniels he's such a genius because the Bills made this mistake. They went there on Thursday.
Yep.
Chiefs are going to do the same thing and be flat-footed. The Dolphins are going to be fully adjusted to the time zone.
Yep.
They're going to come out there flying. Like I think the Dolphins will win this game.
You
And
do. Interesting.
the spread kind of has as a pick 'em Chiefs -1.
Yep.
So I think based on the travel schedule, the Dolphins will have the advantage.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think the Chiefs, you watch them and they've kind of turned into a circus this year with like the whole Taylor Swift thing. You watch them around when they played the Broncos, it's like if it's not Mahomes and Kelsey, it's no one. There's no one else doing anything. You can't get the ball to anyone else. Granted, there were reports that he was sick going into that game, so we'll cut him that little bit of slack. But yeah, I'm wondering if the outside distractions around the Chiefs, and then this story about how we're gonna hold off going out there because we want to have our team Halloween party.
That's why I'm choosing the Dolphins. Like that's so arrogant, and that's just so
Yeah,
like the Chiefs are kind of turning into the new Patriots,
so
except
I'm
for
saying
they don't have the Patriot way about them. They're more
just
like
kind of the outside noise around the Chiefs is getting louder and louder.
I think Taylor Swift needs to stop coming to games because like the whole thing turns into a Taylor Swift, and then when she's not there and Travis doesn't play well, there's a whole story. I'm sick of all this shit. Like
Mm.
let's just get back to football.
Well, Brian, you'll be pleased to know that she's about to kick off the South American or European some leg of her Eras tour.
Oh, thank God.
So she's in rehearsals for that. So she probably won't be at another Chiefs game for a long while.
Because I was getting used to not seeing Brittany Mahomes what's Patrick's brother?
Jackson.
Jackson. I was getting used to not seeing them, and all of a sudden they're back dapping her up and all these stupid
Ah,
handshakes. So
can somebody on her PR team like do something about having her being seen with Jackson Mahomes?
I knew he was gonna snake his way into that
Yeah.
eventually. Because like when Brittany was there, I was like, "Okay, whatever, it's Brittany Mahomes." But then you just see Jackson, he's like, "Oh, hey, girls."
I
So,
know. I
yeah.
know. I know. Guy, like, I know. And it's just given some of the legal trouble he found himself in earlier this year too, probably not the best move for her to be seen with him. I don't know. Just my 2 cents. I don't
I
work in
agree.
PR though.
I agree.
Okay, we move into the 1 o'clock window and we're gonna highlight a couple games here. One game that I guess we have to highlight and talk about is the LA Rams at the pathetic Green Bay Packers.
The -3 favorite Green Bay Packers.
That is insanity. That this team can't get a first down. Like what? Like who made that line? That is insanity. Listen, Brian, I don't want to spend too much time on this because we have football games with football teams that actually matter that we need to talk about. Jordan Love can't play. He can't play. He can't throw the ball down the field. I know we could rewind the tape and go back to the first 2 weeks of you and me doing this podcast and me sitting here going, he looks pretty good. Look at his composure. He looks pretty good. No, no.
Me, I'm like, he's a great game manager. He's just
Yeah.
handling it so well.
Yeah. No, he can't play. He can't throw the ball down the field. They made a decision to go with all these rookies on offense. It's not working. Matt LaFleur, it looks like he's got Scrabble face on the sideline. Like he has no idea what's happening, what he's doing. The game plans they're drawing up for these guys doesn't work. I think that this team needs a culture shift. Uh, Brian, I think there's a very realistic possibility that this team doesn't win a game for the rest of the season. Like that's how bad I think they are.
So that would be interesting because I know they're evaluating Love to see if he can be a franchise quarterback by the end of the season. Management came out and said that. I think it's clear now that he's not. And you're right. I think they could lose every game moving forward.
They
What's their schedule like?
They have so their schedule
They got the
is
Steelers next. The Steelers are gonna
schedule. They've got
destroy them.
Rams, which I think is an L, Steelers L, Chargers L,
Yeah.
Lions L,
Oh yeah.
Chiefs L, Giants, I don't know, but the way this team plays, so they have some games in the back part of the schedule against like 3 in a row against the Giants, the Bucks, and the Panthers. Those aren't great teams, but the way this team is playing, like I said, they can't get a first down. They couldn't get a first down in that first half against the Vikings on the weekend. Like they couldn't do it. So I think there's a very realistic possibility that they win maybe one more game, don't win a game for the rest of this year, and that Matt LaFleur loses his job. Like I honestly think that is. I think there's a lot of people in the Packer fan base that I follow on social media who are banging the table saying fire him right now. For what? Like you're not going to fire him right now. Who are you going to bring in right now? There's no one to bring in.
I would just keep it going because I think they're your best bet to tank and get a good draft pick at this point.
Exactly. Exactly. And listen, Matt LaFleur had 13-3 seasons. I don't think that saves his job at the end of the year if this continues to go into the tank, but I think you don't fire him in season. Like you don't need to. There's no point. It's not going to solve anything. It's not going to fix anything. You've got a bunch of rookies at wide receiver and you got a quarterback who's not a franchise guy. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, but I mean, at least your eyes are open to that because I was blinded for a while too. I got swept up in the Jordan Love sort of hype at the beginning of the year.
Well, like I said, he's got a really impressive sort of demeanor about him. Like he's a calm, cool, collected guy. I like that about him. But when it comes time to like make a throw down the field, he can't do it. And like the interceptions as of late, like they're just nonstop. So it's like it is what it is. I We can move on. The Packers give me a headache. The other 1 o'clock game I wanted to highlight is, in my opinion, the most interesting of the 1 o'clock slate, which is Seahawks at Ravens. The line for this game is Ravens -6. Do we like that?
I like it. The thing I don't like though is like they've been playing really well, but I have Lamar Jackson as my fantasy quarterback.
Mm.
And the way that they're playing him right now, he doesn't get a lot of fantasy points, and it's destroying me. My backup quarterback is Jared Goff, and I never know which one to do each week
Yeah.
because I fear the time that I bench Lamar. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that being said, I think Baltimore is just a much more complete team. Even though the Seahawks have been really good this year, they have big playoff aspirations about them. I just think that Baltimore, their defense, their offense, as a combination, is so much better than the Seahawks.
Yeah. And the Seahawks, though, have been a really surprising team this year. Like
Oh yeah,
they're
like
yeah, like they're in the hunt for that. If the Niners keep sort of getting jammed up here, the Seahawks are in contention to win that division.
the 100% they are, and like Geno Smith's been pretty good. Pete Carroll, he's a very impressive coach. I think he
Mhm.
took a lot of slack when near the end of the rest days, but he is a very consistent coach, and I think he does a great job, especially with what he has right now.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like rejuvenated after losing Russ. He's like, okay, let's get out there and do this. Like we got a guy who's willing to play the playbook. He can actually understand the playbook and wears a wristband to tell him what's in the playbook, which is great.
Yep.
Russ never did that.
Yep. Yeah. And I thought that they've got a good like this team battles like the game against Cleveland on the weekend. Like they battled back and got that win.
Yeah, like they don't give up. And I think that's to do with Pete Carroll, a lot
Yeah,
of what
that's
he
what that
preaches.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
point I was trying to make. They get that sort of fighting spirit from Pete Carroll.
Oh, exactly. Especially when he chomps that gum. He just gets the boys fired up, you know? He
Oh, he
just
sure
gets
does. Man, have you and there's no one who can chomp gum
I just wonder what
like
his
Pete
jaw
Carroll.
feels like after a
Ugh.
game's finished. Like, you know when you chew gum for too long and
But
it's
you
just
know
like,
what though? When you do that, it's good exercise for your jawline. That's why he's got that nice jawline because he's working on it all the time.
man, I gotta get on that gum workout. My
Yeah,
jawline's a
yeah,
little
you do.
lacking.
Yeah, you do. You gotta get like a pair, and you can buy the little balls that you put in your mouth, and you do like reps, and it like helps shape your jawline.
Man, I need to get on this. I'm seriously lacking in the jawline area.
You're
So
telling
that's
me, man. That's why I have a beard all the time because if I don't have a beard, it's just like nothing. It's like neck and mouth. Like there's nothing there.
I know it's our makeup, eh? These beards. That's what the men do.
Yes. Yep. 100%. Okay, we move into the 4 o'clock window in the game. America's game of the week and one of the most intriguing games of the weekend, the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are opening as a -3 favorite. Bryan, I am hammering the Eagles here. I think the Eagles are going to shit kick the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Dallas Cowboys beat up on shitty teams, and when you get them in going into a hostile Philadelphia environment, I'm hammering the Eagles at -3.
I'm kind of kicking myself for not putting this as my favorite because you're right. Like I would have the Eagles at -7
Yeah.
at least for this victory. I could even take them at -10 for this game because
Yeah.
I have no faith in the Cowboys at all, especially in a big game.
Mhm.
They just crumble.
Yes, they do. And you're going in there against like because they're divisional rivals and because in the last 2 years the Eagles have become the kind of giant of the NFC. It's just so Cowboys to go in there and have the moments just too big for them, and Mike McCarthy is just walking around with his Denny's menu on the sideline, just like with Scrabble face. Dak Prescott throws a huge interception early in the game that flips all the momentum into Philly's favor, and then Jalen Hurts just I don't know if I've gone on this rant before on this pod. I love Jalen Hurts.
He's a gamer. Like even
Yeah.
when he's injured, that guy plays so hard and like the
He's
tush.
such a pro. I love his attitude. I love the comments he makes in the media. That guy is a leader, man. Like that's a guy that like you're gonna go to war every day with that guy as your quarterback.
And, like, he's a beast too. Their offensive line too is just insane. So I think that's why he looks so good out there too. Like, he's a great player, but he has
Yep.
so much protection as he's playing.
Yep.
I just like as a Bills fan, just envisioning having that kind of protection kind of it makes me a bit sad because we never
Yeah.
have that. But
Yeah.
and the tush push, like, how can you ever stop that play? I've
I think I love Sirianni's comments from a couple of weeks ago when he was like, "Stop it. You can't
yeah.
do it. That's why you want to make it illegal."
Yeah, he's like, you guys can do it all you want, but you can't do it. We figured out a
It,
way to do it, and it works every time.
yep. And a huge reason why it works, the reason why it works is because you've got one of the best offensive lines in the game, and you've got Jalen Hurts, a guy who squats 600 pounds. Like you're not moving that guy. I don't care how
No.
big you are. That guy's center of gravity is second to none.
And he's so, like he's so agile too, and, like, he's a great athlete, and there's
Mhm.
just not much you can do when it comes to that push,
Yeah.
which I love watching it, though. It's one of my
So do
favorite
I.
plays.
I
Yeah.
don't know why people cry about it. I think it's
I know.
amazing.
It's
Yeah,
just, like, the whole, like, mathematics of how it works and, like, Jason Kelsey just pushing forward too. I love seeing him just dominate big D linemen.
yeah, I know. It's awesome. It's awesome. But yeah, I think the Eagles are gonna shit kick the Cowboys. I
I
think this
agree.
is a game that like it'll be over by halftime type shit kicking.
I think this game's over in the first quarter. It's gonna be, like,
Mm,
21 to nothing.
So basically the same thing that the Cowboys did to the Rams last weekend.
Yeah, basically the
Yeah.
same thing because the Cowboys cannot do that 2 weeks in a row.
Yep. Okay, Brian. Sunday night football.
Bills,
Bills,
Bengals.
Bengals in Cincinnati. This is where the DeMar Hamlin situation took place last week. So it's kind of I don't want to say like a rematch, but it's kind of like it's a game we didn't really get to see in full last year in Cincinnati. We got to see it in the playoffs in Buffalo. How you feeling about this?
Um Not super great. The Bengals have looked like they're back into form. Joe Burrow's playing amazing. Jamar Chase is playing really, really well.
Joe
The
Mixon looked good.
Joe Mixon's unbelievable. The
Yeah.
Bills, they won last Thursday against the Bucks. I guess you can call that a win.
Mhm.
24-18. They just the whole game, like Allen had a bad interception. Run game was not where I wanted to be. Diggs was kind of nowhere to be seen. So it's
Mhm.
just I'm getting a little concerned of what's happening behind the scenes with the Bills.
Mhm.
Coaching is a big problem for me. There's still Ken Dorsey and McDermott. These two guys are not they're not made for this sort of offense, and it's very clear to me. They're a defensive guy. Well, McDermott's defensive guy. Ken Dorsey's just an idiot. So I don't really like. I'm not super confident. I can see why the Bengals are favored -2.
I feel like a broken record, but I think just the Bills franchise in general, to me, just screams of needing like a culture change. Like you need a new voice in there. It at the head coach position and offensive coordinator. You just Josh Allen's play is regressing under this current administration.
Because I think they're putting the chains on him. He needs to play loose and he needs to play fast. And the
He
way that
also
they're
needs somebody who he's a type of guy that needs a quarterback whisperer. Like he needs someone that can speak his language, and
and
he just doesn't seem like he has that right now.
clearly Ken Dorsey's not the like we saw. I knew
No,
this last year. I said this on our podcast every episode. I said, get this guy out of here. Like Ken
yeah.
Dorsey is such an idiot.
Well, you might be getting Daboll back at some point.
That's what I'm hoping happens. I've been
Yeah,
saying that too. I'm like, hey, Dable's clearly not a great head coach anymore. He was last year, but this year is terrible. Bring
yep,
him back. Let's get Ken Dorsey back to being the quarterback coach or whatever he was last year, or sorry,
yep,
2 years ago, and let's fix this. But as long as McDermott's there, nothing's going to change. So you're
yep.
right. They need a new head coach. They need a new culture change. I'd even say let's get a new GM. Brandon
And
Beane is
and
not really impressing me.
and honestly, Brian, I think maybe having a disappointing end to the season, whether that's like losing on wild card weekend or maybe not even making the playoffs, is what is needed to really spurn that along. Like maybe that having that sort of disappointment is what is the kick in the ass that is needed to be like, okay, we got to clean house here because we're wasting our franchise quarterback.
Which is what I was just gonna say as well. Like, I feel like they're wasting Josh Allen in his prime years, and if we get the right coach when he's out of his prime, that doesn't really do much either. Like, he needs to be able to run, he needs to be able to throw the ball, make those hurdles. He needs to make those big hits where he's screaming at D lineman, being like, "I got you." So with our current staff that we have here, it's just chicken shit football when I'm watching.
Yep. And it just looks like they don't have a clue. And just quickly on the Bengals, I agree with you. They're such a funny team, man. Like this is like the second year in a row that they've had a brutal start and then they just round into form. Joe Burrow was an assassin against the San Francisco 49ers last weekend. It's yeah,
And
it's going to be really interesting to see
he
what
ran
happens
for
on Sunday.
and he ran for 45 yards in that game too, so you can clearly tell he's healthy. And
Yeah.
that's what's really scaring me about this game.
Yeah, and they're a team now with the Bills kind of in this sort of weird position where they're underachieving. The Chiefs and as we talked about earlier, all the noise that's getting louder around them. You look at the Bengals, but let me tell you something. At some point, the Bengals are going to have to go through the Ravens, and you could sit and debate who the better team is of the two, but that's a divisional game that the Ravens are going to take a chunk off them. If it
Yeah.
like that is they're headed on a collision course with the Ravens in the AFC North.
In my personal opinion right now, the Ravens should be the number 1 ranked team in the entire NFL.
There
Just by
you
the way
go.
that they've played and
Mm.
just how they're keep winning these games by big margins. I think they're the number 1 team in general.
And it's a franchise that went all in on their quarterback and did everything they can to put him in the best position to succeed. So Buffalo, take note.
Wouldn't
Take
that be
note.
nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
I think we also should touch on the Monday nighter Chargers at Jets. The 4-3 New York Jets, the Jets and Giants
That was
that was Brian, that was the best worst football game I've ever seen in my life. I have never watched a bad football game that was as entertaining as that one.
and it was one of those games where actually I kept on outside of red. It was so much fun to watch, and
Yes.
it seemed like it was like a college like Big Ten kind of game. There's punt
Yep.
after I think there was 24 total punts.
Yeah, and they're each team trying to give it up, and then Tyrod Taylor gets hurt, and in comes Tommy DeVito,
Oh, Mr. DeVito.
Danny DeVito,
Yeah.
and we're
But
just like, who the hell is this guy?
the thing I love about that game is though Jets fans were so cocky after that game, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Did you actually watch the game?"
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. But the fact that it was just such a crappy day in at MetLife too, like it's raining, it's gross, like it was just the theater of it was so good.
And that's the first time Zach Wilson's won in the rain. I heard
Yes,
that stat, and
yes.
I was like, "No way." I mean, he never
So
wins anyways, so it makes sense.
it's this game is the 4-3 Jets against the 3-4 Chargers. The Chargers are opening as a -3 favorite, a
I could
-3.5.
I could see them losing this game.
Yeah,
No,
me too.
yeah.
Me too. Me too. Me too. I think the Jets, we're not going to have any delusions of grandeur with the Jets, but I could see a scenario where as we get closer to the playoffs, the Jets are kind of sniffing around on the outside. And then the narrative is, can Aaron Rodgers come back and get the Jets into the playoffs? Because there's literally talk this week that he's working to come back, which is insanity.
Did you see him throwing the balls around too?
Yes.
I was kinda shocked. I was like, "Man, whatever medicine or voodoo, whatever you're doing, I might start doing that if I get injured because it's clearly working."
You know what though, man? I don't buy it in the sense that, like, yeah, sure, he looks great out there, like planting and throwing. What are you gonna do the first time you face a vicious pass rush and have to run outside the pocket? Like, it's not.
Oh,
Yeah.
no doubt. I'm not saying that he can come back, and I'm just saying it's like to be at this stage in that recovery is kinda shocking.
It's incredible. It's incredible to see.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, look at him out there. He's on no crutches, nothing. He's like planting his foot and throwing the ball. Like, but yeah, I just feel like it's shaping up for a scenario where as we get into the final like 2, 3, 4 weeks of the season, there's like the Jets. If the Jets can win out, they can get a wild card spot. And it's like, can Aaron Rodgers come back and get the Jets into the I just feel it in the air that is something that could happen.
I can't wait for those conversations, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
that's gonna be
It's
all over the
it's
sports,
why
but
we love the NFL.
I just think you stick with Zach Wilson, though, if he gets you there, but
Yeah.
that's
100%. 100%. All right. Another conversation that we love having every week, especially as we head into a new week of football, is Brian's bets. Brian, you know the rules. You tell me your favorite of the week, favorite underdog, favorite over, favorite under, and I let you know if I'm riding with you.
awesome. Well, I'll start with the
Take her
favorite.
away.
I'll start with that favorite. So I got Saints over the Bears, which I think is pretty easy money there, but it's at -8.5. A little
Mhm.
bit risky, 2 touchdowns or a touchdown field goal win, but I will take this
It's only risky because the Saints.
because you never know with Derek Carr. You don't know what you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
You never yeah, that's why it's risky. It's like I don't think that the Bears are gonna win or anything like that. It's just like, what version of the Saints are we going to get?
Are we gonna get a 30 plus game from the Saints, or are we gonna get like 14 points? You just don't know.
So last time we did this, I went 4 for 4 with riding with you. I am not going to ride with you on this one, only because I do not trust Derek Carr as far as I could throw the guy.
That's fair enough. Whenever I just see the Bears, though, I'm like, that's an easy
It's
loss.
true. Yeah. And again, so I always said so too, and the Bears are intriguing in that sense. But then on the other end, you've got Derek Carr. And I'm just like, I can't put my faith in Derek Carr.
He has looked good recently, though. Their
He
offense
does.
seemed to take a turn last week. That's the only reason I'm
And
taking this line
and that division is theirs for the taking.
easily. What
Yeah.
I just wish we'd see some Jameis Winston out there. That's my only
Yeah.
gripe with the Saints. It'd be so much more fun.
It would. Well, I was hoping the Vikings would go get Jameis when
Oh,
wouldn't that be great?
him and Justin Jet. I would have loved that.
Yes, that would have been fantastic. Okay, moving on.
Uh, Favorite underdog of the week is I got the Commanders over the Patriots at +3. I
Yep.
I know the Commanders are selling and this and that, but I just think Sam Howell is better than the Patriots and Mac Jones. Like, I just don't believe in Mac Jones or the Patriots. So I think Sam Howell and the Commanders can take this by more than 3 points.
Yeah, and the Patriots kind of came back to earth last weekend against the Dolphins. Patriots are weird, man.
They
They're so weird.
see the Bills game, I don't even consider that because they always play the Bills so hard. And
Mhm.
but then the rest of their season, you could see what they're actually like. And
And this has the makings of them coming back down to earth even more because you're right. 2 weeks ago, it was like, oh my God, they upset the Bills. And then last weekend, it's like, yeah, they lost to the Dolphins, but it's like a divisional game. And I don't think they were terrible in that game. They're just not as good as the Dolphins. And this one has more of a people kind of maybe overestimating where the Patriots have come in the last couple of weeks, going up against a Washington Commander team what you just saw with the trade deadline is essentially punting on the season.
For sure, but I
Yep.
just think that Sam Howell's gonna come out with
Yep.
sort of, an anger in his game, so that's why I'm taking the Commanders in this one,
I'm gonna ride with you on this one. I think has all the makings for the Patriots to just look brutal against a bad team.
which I can't wait for that. That's my
Yes.
dream.
Yep.
So my favorite, over of the week, I'm doing the Bills-Bengals, obviously great primetime game, over 49.5. I think this game's just gonna be points. Allen can get into shootouts with the best of them. We've all seen it with the Chiefs and everything, so I can see this game
Also,
being in the 60s for total points.
do you have faith that the Bills defense can stop Joe Burrow?
No, like, we have a new cornerback this week, Douglas, great addition, but
Rasul Douglas, good,
Rasul
like,
Douglas,
great addition.
great addition cornerback, new to the team, though, so that's
Mhm.
why it might not be we're still really depleted with the injuries on defense, so it's gonna be
And
points.
even if you're a quality defense, when the Bengals are clicking with the weapons they have, I don't care who you are. Like it's not easy.
Oh, Jamar Chase can outrun the best of them, so he'll always be open, as he says, so we'll see.
I'm gonna ride with you on this one too because I think the shootout factor here is huge, and I also think like I'm a bit worried for the Bills on Sunday night because I think the Bengals are really rounding into form right now,
It
and I think it's
Yeah.
with you're right the depleted defense with injuries, and, and you combine that with the fact that the Bengals are just they're it's go time for them. You're right. I think I could see this one hitting the over for sure.
And, like, Allen really gets up for these kinda games, so I can see him having a big one too.
Yep.
Alright, so my favorite under of the week is Bucks Texans, under
Mhm.
39.5. Both these teams are just dumpster fires,
Oh,
can't score to save their lives. CJ Stroud's really regressed.
yeah. The Texans, I think, like, kinda shot out of a cannon early, but, like, they're still they've got if you're a Texans fan right now, you're looking at it and going, "You know what? We've got some good pieces, but this is like a reality check of, like, we're just not there yet." Like, we're still 2, 3 years away from being the team we wanna be, and Baker Mayfield with the Bucks, I feel a bit like Jordan Love in the sense that, like, if you rewind the tape to like week 2 of this pod, you and I are like, "Oh my god, look at Baker. He looks good. Look at this." And then it's like, and then you remember, oh, it's Baker Mayfield.
And he's really been showing that he's Baker Mayfield. That whole offense just looks old and tired, and
Yep.
I Mike Evans too, he's not playing hard at all, so this
No,
is gonna be no points at all in this game.
100%. I'm riding with you on that. So we're going 3 for 4 this week.
Hey, that's not bad. That's not
That's
bad.
not bad at all. That's not bad at all. All right, buddy. It's time to call her quits on this week's episode. We'll be back next week for week 10. I know you have a big weekend of watching football and also Canadian Football League playoffs.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I always like to remind you every year when we do this podcast that is a big weekend for the Canadian Football League.
I had no idea there's
Yep.
playoffs going
Oh,
on.
it's playoffs. The Argos are setting records. The Argos had like a record-setting season. They're a wagon. They got the bye. They're waiting in the East Final.
Wait, who's their quarterback again? He's,
Chad Kelly,
Chad Kelly. Yeah, Swag
Jim
Kelly's their
Kelly's
quarterback, yeah.
yeah, Jim
Or
Kelly's
nephew
nephew.
or yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, Swag Kelly. He had so much promise and then just
Yeah. But
because
then
he was like
he's gone to the CFL this year and he's just taken it by storm.
I wonder if he could ever get a job back in the NFL.
Listen, if he keeps playing the way he's played with the Argos this year, someone will give him a look. I'm not saying he'll get a job, but someone will give him a look.
Yeah, because he had quite the off-field, problems back in the
Y-
day.
Yes. Yes. All right, we're going to get out of here. We will see everyone after week 9 to tee up week 10. If you like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button below. We really appreciate it. Leave a comment, leave a review. Every little bit helps. We'll see you guys next time.